same kind of thing that when we tell ourselves these messages often enough, we start forgetting that it's a message, and we start believing it's truth.
Right.
And when you can't tell the difference of this is a message that I have made up because of the emotional state I'm in, we just accept that everybody knows I'm too old. Everybody knows she's 60 years old. Everybody knows, she's too old to find a good lover, or she's too old to whatever. And my point is more of, why are you with somebody you believe you need to change? What is your fear about being in an intimate relationship?
Being exactly who you are in your naked self and your naked truth. And, this is what we're talking about, is that deep down I don't believe I'm lovable. So I have to hide my warts and flaws. This is what I'm talking about with radical emotional nudity, to discover that when you allow these warts and flaws that you think are so unlovable to come forth, you discover that's the most lovable part of you, your vulnerability, your truth.
Well, hey, Dr. Jamie says, sorry to break in. You have a caller from the same area as your guest. I was curious if you
wanted to. Hey, Dr. Darcy, shall we take our guest?
Go right ahead.
Let's do it. Come on in, honey. What's your name? Hello? Hello? Bob, my beautiful engineer.
Caller from 860 area code. Are you with us?
Hello?
Yeah,
Dr. Darcy, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. I get this all the time. I get ghost calls. You have please, it's just prepare yourself for the way it is. When Jean agrees, he rings the phone. I mean, Bob, I'm sorry.
I understand. Jean does that. So I'm gonna mute them. I'm gonna check in with them and see if maybe it's just a robot or something.
It might be a real person and not a ghost, but we'll be open to all possibilities. Don't believe everything that you think.
See if I can grab them and get them.
Okay, so I like also to talk to the inner voice, and I'm sure you do too, and say, listen, don't believe everything you think. Don't believe everything you tell yourself, because our brains are pretty nutty, and most of the stuff we come up with is pretty nutty, not true, or just something we bought from the culture or what our parents told us, right?
But to go back to just the situation you were talking about, and thankfully we don't know her name, so I can't mention it because I would not want to do that to anybody. But this woman you were speaking about, she's in a relationship with somebody that she is trying to improve. When we enter relationships, and this is a good girl versus a real woman, which is why I'm on this. When we enter a relationship in order to help somebody else become better, become more of who they are meant to be, it gives us permission not to look at ourselves. It gives us permission not to be invested in who we are meant to be. Simultaneously, what it says is we're not being fair to our partners. I am really not in love with who he is. I'm in love with who I can make him into.
Or I hope I can, right?
Right, and how absolutely unfair you're being to him, or her, and how absolutely unfair you're being to yourself.
Right, I like that. I love what you're saying. So the next chapter is mindfulness, and I think people forget how important it is to be still and quiet, because that's where all your guidance from Spirit and God comes from. So you ask, how did you wake up this morning? Did you feel sad or joyful, tired or refreshed? So you really encourage women to practice this mindfulness and sit in and get used to and fall in love with the silence that lives within. Can you want to say more about this?
Because we are so used to speaking and thinking of others. I was with a group of women just a few moments ago on Zoom online here and looking at what do you feel, what do you think when we stop being focused on taking care of everybody else. We have the opportunity to stop and catch up with ourselves. And the more you practice mindfulness, I truly believe this, the more we practice mindfulness, the more we sit in the silence, the more opportunity we have to fall in love with ourselves.
You know, and I connect that to when you're in silence, you're in the lap of God. And God is love. And so it just reparents you. God is holding you, your loved ones in spirit who may not have loved you as well as they could have when they were in a body. It's just love. And how can you not love yourself when all the love of spirit is pouring into you?
Constantly. And what I really go into with this is that when you take the time to do mindfulness or meditation, whatever, the words keep changing, but the intent is always to sit in the silence. When you take time to do that, if you can imagine and visualize this, that here I am sitting in this chair with my back against the chair, and out there at arm's length is the relationship I'm in, is the job that I have, is the lifestyle I've created, are my friends, or my family, my children, or my brothers and sisters. All of that is at arm's length. I'm over here as an embodied soul sitting in this chair. And when I can identify with this embodied soul that is separate from the life she has created, I have an opportunity then that if somebody were to challenge my job or my partner or my children, to not take it personally, because it's not me they are looking at. It is something I have created. It is somebody I've brought into my life. And when I can do that and begin to see that my journey, my life is separate from who I am, we then have the ability to even look at it ourselves more objectively, to see things more objectively without getting lost in it. And so many women, no matter how successful they are, can get lost and disappear within their job, disappear within their families, within their relationships, so that at some point in the time they'll say to me, I have no idea where I went. I don't even know who I am anymore. Because
if we ever knew, right? Because if you're really doing the good girl thing from the time you're young, you've never really found out who you are. You're just doing what you're supposed to do. Oh, get married or do this job, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I just had that feeling of just wanting to sit with you for a moment. We don't do that too much on the radio, you know, and certainly we don't have much silence. And I was just feeling you and feeling how loving you are, Dr. Dorothy, and how much you really do live in service to others, and everything you do comes from that place. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, so, I really do enjoy people. They're such a marvelous creation. Yeah.
I know. So, you know, this time I'm also going to give you a little preparation for the break that's coming, so I didn't, you know, shock you like I did the last time, because we're going to be taking a break. And when we come back from the break, I want us to go into Chapter 4, the Emotional Intelligence chapter, which is so important to really cultivate our EI, or emotional intelligence. And here you talk about how much time a day do you spend developing your EI, and can you step out of a situation and assess whether you're responding or reacting? Have you developed the ability to see someone else's responsibility without doing the blame game? So, and more. So we'll come back in a moment and we'll talk more about all these EI questions. See you in a minute on Love Never Dies Radio.
Something missing in your life? Maybe you feel lonely and unloved, or your work doesn't bring you joy, or you're secretly jealous of others. Millions of people, even those who are successful and surrounded by those who love them, secretly feel empty. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and I want you to know that the real source of our discontent is disconnection. And connecting to others and feeling love to our core is the cure. But to really connect, you gotta get naked. And I don't mean drop and trowel. I'm talking about radical emotional nudity, where we expose our deepest self, warts and all. Being seen and loved in this vulnerable place is the key to unlocking the door to self-love, healing, deeply intimate relationships, vibrancy, and joy in every every area of your life. Join me June 7 through 9 at the Art of Living Retreat Center in Boone, North Carolina. Get naked, get connected, and be radically transformed. To find out more, visit AskDrLove.com/live events. That's AskDrLove.com/live events.
Love Never Dies is now on the Dream Vision 7 radio network every Wednesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Jamie Turndorf, also known as Dr. Love, is the #1 international best-selling author of Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. If you're grieving the loss of a loved one, tune in and find out how to reconnect and heal any unfinished business using Dr. Turndorf's groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique. Visit AskDrLove.com to find out more.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
You're listening to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If you can't stop crying over the bodily loss of a loved one, Dr. Turndorf's #1 international bestseller, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased, will show you how to toss out the tissues and transform your grief into joy using her groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique that enables you to reconnect and even heal unfinished business with those in spirit without the assistance of a medium, channeler, or psychic. Sign up for Dr. Love's free newsletter at AskDrLove.com and receive an exciting gift, a free excerpt of Love Never Dies. And now, back to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Hello again, and welcome back to Love Never Dies. I'm having such a great time with Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville, author of Real Women Change the World, Letting the Good Girl Die so the Real Women Can Live. And before the break, we said we were going to talk about emotional intelligence. So, Dr. Dorothy, what would you like to have our listeners know about this?
That emotional intelligence is the absolute key to truly becoming a real woman. Or a real man. It is about knowing what is it within you emotionally that triggers you. What is it within you that emotionally empowers you? We need to know this. It doesn't matter how much work we have done on ourselves. We are not done till we go home. So we all have issues that come up. When we can identify them and we know this is my stuff, we don't ever blame it on somebody else. We don't ever accuse them of making us feel this way. We don't accuse them of doing all of these things just to be against us. When in truth, if somebody does something against you, they probably do the same thing against a half a dozen other people. That's who they are. That's how they do relationships. And with emotional intelligence, you don't get hooked. You recognize what your stuff is. You recognize what it is that makes you feel vulnerable, what makes you feel frightened, what makes you feel not good enough, what makes you feel overwhelmed. And you know that so well that you work at some point effortlessly because it comes so natural, at preventing going to those places that make you more in defense than in your truth. And you know that about yourself. At that point in time, I've always discovered that when people know themselves well enough, they have far more compassion and understanding for others. Because you begin to see that you may have been working on some issue for years, and you've mentioned something to somebody you're in a relationship with 5 times and want to know why they're not over it yet. Well, if it's taken you years and you're still working on something, perhaps they truly are working on it, but it still takes them time to get there as well. Understanding that allows you, when you're in the office, if somebody is consistently late, you don't take it personally. You set up a situation where you don't end up having them come in late. Give them an earlier time, knowing they'll show up on time. However you choose to do that, you learn to work with people as adults. And
nice.
You step out of defense.
Right. You know, I talk in kiss your fights goodbye about the old scars of childhood because, as they say in AA, if it's hysterical, it's historical. So anytime you're getting triggered by whatever someone